everyone, this is Aisha and welcome to our 48th Kotlin tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'll be talking about the constructors in Kotlin programming language. So a constructor is a special member function of a class and it is automatically called when you create an object of that class. So now in Kotlin programming, these constructors have some different behavior unlike Java. So now in Kotlin we have constructors of two types. For example, for the first one is the primary constructor and then we have the secondary constructor. So in this tutorial I'll be talking about the primary constructor and I will discuss secondary constructor in the next tutorial. So now this primary constructor is actually used to initialize the properties of the class, properties or the data members of the class. And now how you can create this primary constructor? First of all, you need to create a class by using the class keyword, and then we will have the name of the class, for example student, and then we will have parameters here. So these parameters actually is the primary constructor, and inside these parameters we will have our properties of the constructor. So here you can see that remove empty primary constructor. So if you remove, we will have everything fine. So now this primary constructor is used to initialize the properties of the class, and then we will have the body of the class. So now inside the primary constructor, I'm going to create two variables using the keyword var, and then the first variable is name. So it should be noted here that these variables of primary constructor are not the properties of student class, but they are the members of the constructor. Then the data type of this primary constructor, this variable. Then we will have another primary constructors variable var id integer data type. So now we have created a class using the class keyword, and then we have the name of the class, and with the name of the class we have a primary constructor. So this statement is actually a primary constructor, and if you remove this line, then the student class will have no primary constructor. So this line defines the primary constructor, and inside the primary constructor we have two variables. The first one is of string data type and the second one is the id, which is of integer data type. Now how you can use these members, use these variables? Now from the main function, I'm going to create an object of the student class. So how would you do that? By using the keyword var or val, and then the name of the object, for example s, the equal sign, and then the name of the class. So in the last tutorial when we have created the waiter object, we have used empty parameters, but now these parameters have name and id. So now I have to pass a name and an id. So I'm going to pass, for example, Aisha, and then id, for example, 201. Okay, so now we have created an object, and when you create an object, the constructor is automatically called. So this object will call the primary constructor. So this primary constructor has two variables, name and id. So Aisha is assigned to name and id is assigned to 201 is assigned to id. So it should be noted here, when you have string data type, then you have to use the name inside these double quotation marks. So now I'm going to use print line statement and name of student equals. Now I can access this variable from main function. So how would you do that? By using the dollar symbol, and then we will have curly braces. Now inside these curly braces, I am going to write the name of my object, which is s, and then the dot separator, and then the name, the property that I want to access. For example, I want to access the name, so I will write s dot name. So this variable of primary constructor will be printed here. Then print line id of student equals dollar symbol again, and then the curly braces, and then we will have the name of the object, which is s, and then this dot separator, and then we will have id. So now let's run this program, and you will see we will have this name and id on the output screen. So now you can see name of student equals Aisha, id of student equals 201. So what we did, we have created a class and its name is student. So this class contains a primary constructor, and inside the primary constructor we have declared two variables. The first one is of string data type, the second one is of integer data type. Then when creating the object, we have passed the values for these variables. So when you create an object, the constructor will automatically call. So Aisha is assigned to name, and id, but that is 201, will be assigned to this variable id. Now we have Aisha stored in name and 201 stored in id. So when we use this function, this object, to call the name and id, we have our values printed on the output screen. Then now in the primary constructor, we have another thing, which is the init block or the initializer block, which will initialize these values. For example, we have passed these values from the main function. We can also initialize them in the init block or the initializer block. So how would you create that init block? By using the keyword init and then the body of the init. So inside the body of the init, I'm going to just copy and cutting it, and here I'm going to paste. So now you don't have to use these objects here. Remove them and the result will be same. So now you can see here the result is same, Aisha and 201. So what we did here, first of all, we have created an object, and when this object is created, this primary constructor is called, and the body of the primary constructor is here in the init block. So init block is the initializer block to initialize the primary constructor. So inside this init block, we have these print line statements, and you can also do one more thing, which is you can write here inside the class s equals name, or you can write a meaningful variable name, for example n, and then I equals id. And now here you can print n and I. So now everything will be again fine. Now let's run this program. And you can see here we have the same output. So guys, that's it for this tutorial. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.